Across the Midwest, from the rolling hills of Ohio to the wide, open plains, every farm holds a story. Stories written in diesel smoke, in steel, and in sweat. Machines that worked the land and shaped the people who tended it. In this video, we celebrate 5 of those legends, the tractors that built our heartland. This is Top 5 Used Tractors Most Loved on Midwest Family Farms. Case 1070. It was the dawn of the 1970s. American agriculture was booming, and the fields of Ohio were alive with the hum of diesel and hope. In Racine, Wisconsin, the J.I. Case Company unveiled a new kind of machine, the Case 1070, a tractor built for farmers who demanded both strength and style. The Case 1070 rolled off the line in 1970, wearing its trademark white hood and burnt orange chassis, a striking contrast against the green fields. Priced around $10,000 at the time, it wasn't cheap, but folks who bought one weren't looking for cheap. They were looking for a companion, something that would plow, pull, and persevere. With roughly 20,000 units produced between 1970 and 1978, the 1070 became one of the most recognized models of its era. Today, a well-kept 1070 can fetch anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 at auctions, and more than a few still work the fields right here in Ohio. Under that sleek white hood lay the heart of the beast, a 6-cylinder, 451 cubic inch diesel engine that could deliver around 108 horsepower at the drawbar. The engine wasn't just powerful, it was steady, dependable, like the farmers who drove it. The transmission featured Case's own power shift system, giving the operator smooth control without ever leaving the seat. It was built heavy, nearly 12,000 pounds of pure American steel, designed to grip the soil and never let go. But it wasn't just the specs that made the Case 1070 special. It was the way it felt. The way that diesel clatter rolled across a quiet valley on a July morning. The smell of fuel mixed with fresh-cut hay. The steering wheel warm under your hands as the sun rose over the barn roof. Old-timers around Knox County still talk about the 1070 like it was a member of the family. There's a story folks tell about a farmer named Dale Hendershot, who bought his 1070 new in '72. He said it was the only machine that never once left him stranded. Through blizzards, droughts, and mud seasons, that tractor started every morning even when he couldn't. When Dale passed, his sons restored the 1070, and it still sits in the same barn, gleaming under the dust motes of a quiet afternoon. What made the 1070 so loved wasn't just its muscle, but its heart. Case built a tractor that stood shoulder to shoulder with giants like Deere and International, and yet carried its own distinct pride. It wasn't trying to be flashy. It was solid, honest, and built to last. In an age before electronics and sensors, machines like the 1070 spoke a simpler language, one of metal, sweat, and determination. You didn't need a computer to understand it. Just a wrench, a strong back, and a little faith. For many Ohio farmers, the 1070 is more than a tractor. It's a reminder of their fathers' calloused hands and long days on the land. A reminder of when the world was slower, and a man's word was as good as his harvest. Even now, if you drive through the heart of the Midwest on a quiet evening, you might hear it, the low, steady thrum of a Case 1070 still working, still loyal, still proud. A legend that never left the field. But before the red paint took over the Midwest, another powerhouse rose to fame, the International Harvester 1066. International Harvester 1066. The year was 1971. Across the Midwest, the air was thick with diesel smoke and the smell of freshly turned earth. American farmers were working longer hours than ever before, and they wanted machines that could stand up to the grind. From the heart of Chicago, International Harvester answered that call with a roar, the Model 1066. They called it Red Power. And on the rolling plains of Ohio, that red meant something. It meant pride, reliability, and a touch of stubbornness that matched the farmers themselves. The 1066 was part of IH's 66 series, built from 1971 to 1976, a golden run that saw over 50,000 units leave the factory. It came with a 414 cubic inch turbocharged diesel engine that produced roughly 125 horsepower at the drawbar. Back then, that was pure muscle, enough to pull 6 bottom plows or haul wagons through sticky spring soil without breaking a sweat. Farmers remember the 1066 not just for what it could do, but for how it felt. When you turned that key and the turbo spooled up, it didn't whisper, it barked. The ground trembled. The exhaust stack spat smoked like a chimney in January. And when you throttled up, you could feel that steady, confident pull all the way through the seat. The cab wasn't fancy, but it had heart. A big steering wheel, a sturdy shift lever, and gauges that told you everything you needed and nothing you didn't. The seat was simple, the windows wide, and the world outside looked endless. For many in Ohio, the 1066 became a trusted partner through the toughest years. In the Corn Belt, families passed them down like heirlooms. Some still sit out in barns today, paint faded to pink, but engines ready to roll the moment you twist the key. There's an old story about the Miller family out near Bucyrus. Their 1066 pulled silage wagons every fall for nearly 30 harvests. When the newer tractors came along, with computers and air-conditioned cabs, that red IH just kept on running, steady, loyal, uncomplaining. One of the Millers once said, "You don't retire a friend that's still got heart." Parts for the 1066 are still easy to find, and repairs don't take a degree in electronics, just a few tools, some grease, and patience. That's why so many are still in the fields today. The 1066 was built for real work, not showroom talk. Its paint might fade, but its spirit never did. When that red hood glints under the afternoon sun, there's something deeply American about it, something honest. It reminds us of a time when machines were made to last, and when a handshake could seal a season's deal. In the end, the 1066 isn't just a tractor. It's the sound of progress, the rhythm of work, and the color of pride that still runs deep across the heartland. Strong. Simple. Red. Forever. But before green paint came to define reliability, another legend rolled out of Waterloo, the John Deere 4020. John Deere 4020. It was 1963 when the John Deere 4020 first rolled out of Waterloo, Iowa. America was changing fast. The interstate highways were stretching wide, farms were growing larger, and the nation's confidence was sky high. Yet, through it all, one color still ruled the countryside, that unmistakable John Deere green. The 4020 wasn't just another tractor. It was the tractor that changed modern farming. When it arrived, it set a new standard for what a farm machine could be: powerful, smooth, and comfortable, all wrapped up in that familiar green and yellow coat. With a 6-cylinder 404 cubic inch diesel engine producing around 95 horsepower, the 4020 offered something farmers hadn't truly felt before: ease. It started easier, shifted smoother, and ran quieter than most of its rivals. Its power shift transmission gave operators 8 forward speeds without ever using the clutch, a blessing during long days in the field. Weighing about 9,000 pounds, it had the muscle to plow, plant, and harvest, but it was nimble enough for daily chores. It burned diesel clean and steady, the exhaust puffing gently into a blue sky. Some folks say that sound, that soft, rhythmic thrum, was the heartbeat of the Midwest for a decade. The 4020 was built from 1963 to 1972, and more than 180,000 units found their way to farms across America. Here in Ohio, nearly every small-town dealership sold them by the dozen. And today, over half a century later, many are still running, still pulling wagons, still earning their keep. Ask an Ohio farmer about the 4020, and you'll likely get a smile before a word. They'll talk about those summer mornings, dew still heavy on the corn, when the 4020 fired up with a soft cough and a steady hum. They'll tell you how it always started, even when the temperature dropped below freezing. There's a story that makes the rounds in Shelby County about a man named Harold Benton. He bought his 4020 brand new in '66. Used it through 3 children, 2 barns, and countless harvests. Harold said the tractor was the one thing he never had to argue with. When his grandkids visit the farm, they still climb up on that worn green seat, pretending to drive, the old Deere still purring like it's waiting for one more day's work. What made the 4020 special wasn't just performance, it was trust. Farmers knew what it could do and what it couldn't. It didn't make promises it couldn't keep. It simply worked day after day, season after season. And that built a loyalty that runs deeper than paint. Even now, collectors and working farmers alike say the 4020 marks the line between the old world and the new, when horsepower met comfort, and simplicity met dependability. In the end, the 4020 isn't just a tractor, it's a living chapter of rural America. Its sound, its shape, its smell, they all whisper memories of golden fields and quiet sunsets. A green heartbeat that never stopped. But long before orange faded from the fields, there was another machine that roared with pride, the Allis-Chalmers 190 XT. Allis-Chalmers 190 XT. It was 1965 when the Allis-Chalmers 190 XT first rolled off the line in West Allis, Wisconsin. The Midwest was in full swing, farms were growing larger, yields were rising, and competition among tractor makers was fierce. Amid the greens and reds that painted the countryside, Allis-Chalmers brought something bold, something impossible to miss: orange. That bright orange 190 XT wasn't just a color choice. It was a statement. Here was a tractor built for those who didn't follow trends, they made their own. Under the hood, the 190 XT packed a 6-cylinder turbocharged diesel that delivered about 93 horsepower at the drawbar. Back then, that was serious power for a mid-size row crop tractor. It could pull 5-bottom plows or haul silage wagons with ease, yet still handle the everyday chores that kept a family farm running. At just over 9,000 pounds, the XT had a good balance of strength and agility. Its transmission, a 16-speed power director, gave farmers flexibility for every task, from slow, steady tilling to quick transport on the gravel road home. The machine was tough, but what folks loved most was how it felt: light on the wheel, strong in the field. When that turbo spooled up, the 190 XT let out a whistle that farmers in Ohio still remember. It wasn't loud, it was alive. You could hear it half a mile away on a calm evening, a long, rising note that cut through the breeze and echoed across the fields like a promise kept. Many say the 190 XT had personality. It wasn't the smoothest. It wasn't the quietest. But it had spirit. You could almost feel it lean into the soil, digging deep, clawing for traction, refusing to give up even when the furrows turned heavy. In northwest Ohio, near Findlay, there's a man named Jim Porter who still runs his father's 190 XT. Bought in 1968, it's seen more seasons than most men care to count. Jim says it's never once failed to start even after sitting out all winter. Every spring, he tops off the diesel, checks the oil, and lets her roar back to life. Sounds like home, he says, leaning on the fender, the paint faded but proud. Parts for the XT aren't hard to find, thanks to loyal collectors and old AC enthusiasts who keep the flame burning. Some even paint their toolboxes orange, just to match the memory. And when you see that flash of color cutting across a field at sunset, it feels like the 1960s again: the smell of soil, the hum of work, the pride of doing it yourself. Allis-Chalmers never had the size of Deere or the market share of International, but they had heart and a knack for building machines that farmers could believe in. The 190 XT was their loudest, brightest shout from the barn roof: "We're still here, and we can pull with the best of them." For many Ohio farmers, that meant something. It still does. Because orange wasn't just paint, it was grit, it was hope, and it was heritage. Bright. Bold. Unbreakable. The sound of a promise kept. And as the years rolled on, another color began to rise across the Heartland, a calm, dependable blue. The Ford 5000 was ready to take its place in history. Ford 5000. It was 1965 when the Ford 5000 first rolled out of the assembly line in Basildon, England, but it didn't take long for that blue beauty to find a second home right here in America's Midwest. Across the fields of Ohio, from Shelby to Chillicothe, farmers welcomed the 5000 like an old friend. It wasn't the biggest. It wasn't the flashiest. But it was steady, reliably, proudly steady. At about 67 horsepower, the Ford 5000 didn't roar, it hummed. Its four-cylinder diesel engine was as smooth as a summer breeze, strong enough to pull a three-bottom plow, light enough for daily chores, and easy to repair with little more than a wrench and good sense. It weighed around 6,000 pounds, built just right for the small to mid-size family farm, the kind that still dotted the Ohio heartland through the 1970s and 80s. The 5000 came with Ford's Selecto-Speed or manual 8-speed transmission, depending on how much you trusted a bit of machinery wizardry. Most Ohio farmers stuck with the manual. They liked feeling the gears, the way each shift clunked solidly into place, like shaking hands with the earth itself. That blue paint stood out against the golden wheat and cornfields. It wasn't loud like red, or proud like green, it was calm, dependable, familiar. The kind of blue that felt like a cool morning sky after a long night's rain. You could walk down a gravel road in Wayne County and see two, maybe three Ford 5000s still parked in front of weathered barns. Some with faded decals, others polished for the county fair. They may leak a little oil, rattle a little more than they used to, but they still start. And they still work. There's a story folks tell about an old farmer named Earl Simmons near Newark, Ohio. Earl bought his 5000 in 1972, paid for half in cash and half with hope. For 50 years, that tractor hauled wagons, plowed snow, and even pulled the neighbor's Chevy out of a ditch one icy February. When Earl passed on, his grandson didn't sell the machine. He just painted the hood again, same blue, same white stripe, and drives it every spring to plow the garden. Earl's spirit rides with him in every furrow. That's what the Ford 5000 meant to the Midwest, not just horsepower, but heritage. It was a worker's tractor, strong enough to shoulder the day, simple enough for anyone to fix, and humble enough to fit right in. Today, collectors call it the blue workhorse, and for good reason. It represents everything honest about farming: early mornings, honest sweat, the hum of diesel, and the quiet satisfaction of a job done right. The Ford 5000 reminds us that not every hero shouts. Some just keep working. Steady. Simple. Blue as the morning sky. And that brings us to the end of our journey through the fields of the Midwest, through red, green, orange, white, and blue. Each machine we've met, the Case 1070, the IH 1066, the John Deere 4020, the Allis-Chalmers 190XD, and the Ford 5000, carried more than metal and horsepower. They carried stories. Generations. Pride. Here in the Heartland, these tractors weren't just tools, they were family. They shaped the land, and the people who worked it. So if you've got a memory, a photo, or maybe even one of these legends still running out back, share your story in the comments. Let's keep their engines and their spirit running a little longer. Thanks for listening, friends. Until next time, keep the fields green, the hearts proud, and the tractors running true.